The year was 1986. The Cold War raged on, casting a long, dark shadow over the world. Nations were gripped by a pervasive sense of dread as the threat of nuclear annihilation loomed large. The streets were filled with whispers of espionage and covert operations, and the air was thick with tension. Fear hung heavy in the air, an almost tangible presence that seeped into every corner of society. People went about their daily lives, but the undercurrent of anxiety was impossible to ignore. It was a time when trust was a rare commodity and suspicion was the norm. The United States, locked in an ideological battle with the Soviet Union, sought a decisive edge. This was not just a struggle for territorial dominance, but a clash of philosophies, a fight for the very soul of the world. Each side was determined to prove the superiority of its way of life. They called it Project Icarus. Named after the mythological figure who flew too close to the sun, it was a fitting moniker for a venture that sought to harness immense power with little regard for the potential consequences. A top-secret research program hidden deep within the Department of Defense. Its existence was known to only a select few, and its true purpose was a closely guarded secret. The stakes were incredibly high, and failure was not an option. Its goal? To create the ultimate biochemical deterrent, a weapon so advanced, so devastating, that it would render traditional warfare obsolete. The idea was to develop something so terrifying that no enemy would dare to challenge the United States, a weapon so terrifying, so potent, that it would make war unthinkable. The scientists involved were some of the brightest minds of their generation, driven by a mix of patriotism, ambition, and a desire to push the boundaries of what was scientifically possible. Leading the charge was a shadowy government contractor, Knox Biotechnica. This company had a reputation for taking on the most challenging and controversial projects, and Project Icarus was no exception. They were known for their cutting-edge research and their willingness to operate in the shadows. A company on the cutting edge of genetic engineering and virology, Knox Biotechnica had assembled a team of experts who were pioneers in their fields, individuals who were not afraid to push ethical boundaries in the name of progress. They poured vast resources into Project Icarus, driven by ambition and fueled by government funds. The project received a blank check with no expense spared in the pursuit of its ambitious goals. The labs were equipped with the latest technology, and the scientists had access to virtually unlimited resources. Their scientists, brilliant but blinded by hubris, tampered with the very building blocks of life. They believed they could control nature, bend it to their will, and create something that had never been seen before. Their confidence was matched only by their recklessness. They sought to weaponize nature's deadliest creations, viruses. Months turned into years, and the research continued in secrecy. The scientists worked tirelessly, driven by the belief that they were on the verge of a groundbreaking discovery. The scientists at Knox Biotechnica made significant breakthroughs. They celebrated each milestone, convinced that they were making history. The atmosphere in the lab was one of excitement and anticipation as they inched closer to their goal. They engineered a virus, highly contagious and incredibly lethal. It was a marvel of modern science, a testament to what could be achieved when the brightest minds were given free rein. But with each step forward, the potential for disaster grew. It targeted the human nervous system, hijacking the body and turning its host into a mindless, aggressive entity. The virus was designed to spread rapidly, leaving chaos and destruction in its wake. It was a weapon unlike any other, one that could bring entire nations to their knees. The virus was dubbed Solanum, a chillingly apt name derived from the Latin word for nightshade, a family of poisonous plants. The name reflected the deadly nature of the virus, a reminder of the thin line between scientific advancement and catastrophe. The project was shrouded in secrecy. Every detail was classified, and the scientists were sworn to silence. The government went to great lengths to ensure that the true nature of Project Icarus remained hidden from the public. Only a handful of high-ranking officials knew its true nature. These individuals were the gatekeepers of the project, responsible for overseeing its progress and ensuring that it remained under wraps. They understood the risks, but they were also seduced by the potential rewards. The scientists worked in isolation, their research hidden from the public eye. They were cut off from the outside world, focused solely on their work. The isolation took its toll, but they believed it was a small price to pay for the potential benefits. They believed they were creating a weapon that would ensure peace. In their minds, the end justified the means. They saw themselves as guardians of the future, willing to take on the burden of creating something terrible in order to prevent something even worse. Little did they know they were opening Pandora's box. The consequences of their actions would be far-reaching and devastating, setting in motion a chain of events that would change the world forever. The dream of peace would soon turn into a nightmare. Knox Biotechnica, a rising star in the world of defense contracting, was awarded the Project Icarus contract in 1984. This project was shrouded in secrecy and promised to push the boundaries of scientific research and military applications. The company, headquartered in Louisville, Kentucky, had a state-of-the-art research facility located just miles from the Fort Knox military base. This proximity would prove fateful, as it allowed for a seamless collaboration between the military and the scientists at Knox Biotechnica. The team assembled for Project Icarus was composed of the best and brightest minds in the fields of virology, genetics, and biochemistry. These scientists were handpicked for their expertise and their willingness to push ethical boundaries in the name of progress. Dr. Henry Emerson, a brilliant but eccentric virologist, headed the project. Emerson was known for his unorthodox methods and his relentless pursuit of scientific advancement. He saw Project Icarus as the pinnacle of his career, a chance to make a mark on history. Under Emerson's leadership, the team at Knox Biotechnica made alarmingly swift progress. They experimented with various viruses, manipulating their genetic code to enhance their virulence and lethality. The potential applications of their research were both groundbreaking and terrifying. Their work was highly classified, their findings kept under lock and key. The potential consequences of their research, should it fall into the wrong hands, were too terrifying to contemplate. The research facility itself was a fortress, with armed guards patrolling the perimeter and surveillance systems monitoring every inch of the building. Access was strictly controlled, and the scientists worked in isolation, their communication with the outside world limited. They were cut off from their families, their friends, their lives beyond the laboratory walls. The isolation took a toll on the scientists, but they were driven by a sense of duty and a desire to see their work come to fruition. The team faced numerous challenges, from technical difficulties to ethical dilemmas, but under Emerson's leadership they persevered. They believed that their work could change the world, for better or for worse. The stakes were high and the pressure was immense, but they were determined to succeed. As the project progressed, the team became increasingly aware of the potential dangers of their research. They took every precaution to ensure that their work remained secure, but the fear of what could happen if their findings were leaked was always present. The weight of their responsibility was a constant burden, but they pressed on, driven by the promise of scientific discovery. The scientists at Knox Biotechnica were on the cutting edge of virology and genetics, and their work had the potential to revolutionize the field. But with great power came great responsibility, and the team was acutely aware of the potential consequences of their research. They knew that their work could be used for both good and evil, and they were determined to ensure that it was used for the betterment of humanity. Despite the challenges and the risks, the team at Knox Biotechnica remained committed to their work. They believed in the potential of their research to make a positive impact on the world, and they were willing to make the necessary sacrifices to see it through. The story of Project Icarus is a testament to the power of scientific curiosity and the lengths to which people will go in the pursuit of knowledge. The potential consequences of their research, should it fall into the wrong hands, were too terrifying to contemplate. The research facility itself was a fortress, with armed guards patrolling the perimeter and surveillance systems monitoring every inch of the building. Access was strictly controlled, and the scientists worked in isolation, their communication with the outside world limited. The isolation took a toll on the scientists, but they were driven by a sense of duty and a desire to see their work come to fruition. The team faced numerous challenges, from technical difficulties to ethical dilemmas, but under Emerson's leadership they persevered. They believed that their work could change the world, for better or for worse. The stakes were high and the pressure was immense, but they were determined to succeed. As the project progressed, the team became increasingly aware of the potential dangers of their research. They took every precaution to ensure that their work remained secure, but The fear of what could happen if their findings were leaked was always present. The weight of their responsibility was a constant burden, but they pressed on. Driven by the promise of scientific discovery, the scientists at Knox Biotechnica were on the cutting edge of virology and genetics, and their work had the potential to revolutionize the field. But with great power came great responsibility, and the team was acutely aware of the potential consequences of their research. They knew that their work could be used for both good and evil, and they were determined to ensure that it was used for the betterment of humanity. Despite the challenges and the risks, the team at Knox Biotechnica remained committed to their work. They believed in the potential of their research to make a positive impact on the world, and they were willing to make the necessary sacrifices to see it through. The story of Project Icarus is a testament to the power of scientific curiosity and the lengths to which people will go in the pursuit of knowledge. The Fort Knox incident, 2 words that sent chills down the spines of everyone involved. It began on a seemingly ordinary day in July 1989. Deep within the Knox Biotechnica research facility, a routine experiment took a horrific turn. A vial containing a highly concentrated strain of the Solanum virus shattered. The virus, aerosolized upon contact with the air, quickly spread through the lab's ventilation system. The scientists, caught completely off guard, scrambled to contain the breach, but it was too late. The virus had escaped. The first casualty was a lab technician, a young man named Billy Collins. He had been working near the containment breach when the alarm sounded. Within hours, he began to exhibit flu-like symptoms, fever, chills, muscle aches, but these were no ordinary flu symptoms. Billy Collins, now designated Patient Zero, deteriorated rapidly. His condition worsened with each passing hour, leaving doctors and nurses scrambling to find a solution. The once healthy man was now a shadow of his former self, his body ravaged by an unknown force. The virus, working its way through his system, unleashed a cascade of horrifying symptoms. It was relentless, attacking every part of his body with a ferocity that left the medical team in shock. They watched helplessly as the virus replicated at an alarming rate, overwhelming his immune system. His fever spiked, his skin erupted in painful blisters, and his internal organs began to shut down. The medical staff could only manage his symptoms, unable to halt the virus's progression. Each new symptom was more severe than the last, painting a grim picture of what was to come. Doctors, flown in from the CDC, were baffled by the aggressive nature of the virus. They had seen many pathogens in their careers, but nothing like this. The virus seemed to defy all known medical knowledge, leaving the experts grasping at straws. They had never encountered anything like it before. The virus's rapid mutation and adaptability made it a formidable adversary. Every test they conducted only raised more questions, deepening the mystery surrounding this deadly pathogen. Quarantine protocols were immediately put in place, but the virus, as if possessing a sinister intelligence, had already begun to spread beyond the lab walls. The containment measures, though swift, were not enough to stop its insidious advance. Collins, in his delirium, managed to escape quarantine. His mind, clouded by fever and confusion, drove him to flee the confines of his isolation. The medical staff's attempts to restrain him were futile against his frantic desperation. Driven by the virus's insidious influence, he became disoriented, aggressive, and highly contagious. His erratic behavior posed a significant threat to everyone around him, turning the hospital into a potential ground zero for a larger outbreak. He wandered the halls of the facility, unknowingly spreading the virus with every labored breath, every drop of sweat. Each step he took left a trail of contamination, putting countless lives at risk. The virus thrived in his weakened state, using him as a vessel to reach new hosts. His escape triggered a full-scale lockdown of the facility. The hospital's corridors echoed with the sounds of alarms and the hurried footsteps of security personnel. The once calm environment was now a scene of chaos and urgency. Armed guards were stationed at every exit, and the remaining scientists and staff were quarantined in designated safe zones. The hospital became a fortress, with every measure taken to prevent the virus from escaping further. But the situation was already spiraling out of control. The virus had a head start, and containment efforts were struggling to keep pace. The medical staff, overwhelmed and exhausted, fought a losing battle against an invisible enemy. The virus, like a predator sensing weakness, was loose. It moved with a purpose, exploiting every opportunity to spread. The first domino had fallen, and the chain reaction it set off would change the world forever.